Hi, this is T, and I'm coming because I've been asked to do a few more quilting videos, and I'm actually in the process of quilting a quilt that I recently did a video on for piecing the string border. And so I thought I would just share some things of how I actually do my machine quilting. So I don't have a camera set on my machine so you can see me up close as I'm quilting. I don't know how to do that, so I'll have to figure that out at some other point. So I just want to take the camera off the tripod and show you what I have set up. Okay, I've already turned this quilt one full rotation, and what I do when I first start is that I do base my quilt onto the frame across the top and bottom. And on this one, because I had it pieced and I wanted to make sure it stayed square, I went ahead and pinned my top. I normally float my top, but I'll show you that in another video. And then what I do is I tend to base down the sides before I start quilting the quilt. But a couple things I want to point out that I might do just a tad differently is that I put a ruler onto my quilt top, and I don't care where the numbers line up. Like here is center, but it's not actually centered on my quilt. This is the center of my quilt. Basically what I do is I just want to know where the edge of the quilt top is. So I put a little clamp. You can also like a paper clip, but you can also use like a pin to pin through your tape here. So I do that on each end. So as I'm rolling the quilt, I make sure that the edges come back to those clamps, because if you don't, your quilt will roll on crooked. Even though it's basted on the top as well as pinned to the leader, it still will roll on crooked. Another thing I do when my batting is too long, I don't like to roll my batting into the quilt. I like to base down, and then I trim the batting at that basting. Actually, it stopped right here, and I didn't realize it because I had my stitching from piecing my edges. I cut a little too much, so I've got to watch this when I base down to make sure that I have the batting. And that's another reason why it's a good idea to base down your sides. So I'm going to base down my sides, and then I'll come back. Okay, I'm back. I just got through basting down my sides, and the next step that I do is I take a lint roller and I just roll it over the quilt to get any loose threads, and then I check to see if I have any threads that are in the seams that I can't pull out without clipping. So I got my clippers, and I'm going to try to see if I can angle this camera down. So you can see where I picked up lint as well as some threads, and then I check it to make sure that I have the threads that maybe are in the seam that need to be pulled out of the seam lines, and trim those as well. And I do have a movie on in the background, so you may hear some talking. So I got all the strings. I've trimmed from basting. So now I'm ready to start quilting. I'm just basically doing a basic swirl. And I'm down here where I basted at the end, and I'm just going to start stitching from where I basted. That way I don't have a thread break or a tie off I need to do right there. So I need to go to stitch mode. I am using regulated mode. So basic swirl. So now I'm at the text here, and I don't really want to put black thread over the white text. So I'm going to just change and do some meandering so that I can get in and out of these lines and get some quilting in there. Frame, I think, but I'm going to work my way back around. But I just wanted to put some stitching around the lettering, but I didn't want to necessarily go through it because I'm using such a high contrasting thread with the lettering. Normally I would just go over embroidery and not really care, but this was just too much of a contrast. And the final thing that I want to share is that I do wear just a scrap piece of batting pinned to me, so as I'm going through the quilt and I see additional strings that may come up from the vibration of quilting, or when I'm trimming my tie-offs, then I just plop those on here so that I don't have them going back into the quilt.